We return to the hospital room in my stand-in episode 12, where Ming is waiting by Joe's bedside. Joe waits from outside the room as Ming yells his name and his heartbeat slows. As he approaches the door to leave his body, all of the things that people have said to him come back to him, bringing back memories of his struggles while on Earth. He opens the door and remembers their wonderful times together as he feels Ming hold onto him from behind. Joe opens his eyes from the hospital bed and decides to live the same life once more since Ming is waiting for him. Joe will no longer be a stand-in after he makes his own life decisions, according to the seer. Rewind to when Ming first got the call on Joe's accident. Ming wakes up right away in the hospital, right next to Joe, who is also awake. When Yim and Sol pay him a visit, Sol stops to talk with Ming and tells Joe about his past. He begs Ming to swear to keep his friend safe. Joe's mother meets Ming's mother outside the hospital room, and Ming's mother acknowledges their boys' affection for each other. Thus, they go together to see their sons. That night, Ming expresses regret for everything that has happened previously, and the boys make a wish on shooting stars. After dropping Joe down at the hospital, Jim takes him to see Ming's father, who pulls a gun on him. He claims that Joe's past crazy love almost killed Ming, not because he is a poor man. He begs Joe to swear that he won't abandon Ming. Joe is invited to a family dinner, where he is accepted, Ming regains his business, and Tom's debts are settled. Following their reconciliation, Tom expresses gratitude to Joe and assures him that he will give him credit in the film. May and Tom reconcile as well. She didn't sign the divorce papers and understood he was shielding her. Joe receives an invitation from Ming's agency to produce the film they had previously discussed, but he wants to select the director and properly audition for the part, all the while keeping his increased involvement a secret from the director. When Joe visits he admits that he is formally with Ming, but is relieved for him in the wake of everything. Then he runs across Sol, who is returning to Korea in order to avoid all the sweetness. Yim, one of his fan club members, offers Sol a ride. As his mother stops by to have a look at their flat and tries to persuade Ming to move, Ming refuses, saying they have too many memories there. As Joe pays his mother a visit, he assures her that he can now afford to keep it for her. She has wonderful news: she has located a kidney donor. Joe's mother-in-law answers the door when he gets home, calling out pet names, and the three of them sit down to dinner. Joe converses with the director who had rejected the first Joe later on at the press conference. He picked Joe because he was reminded of the old Joe and he felt awful about the way things had gone in the past. They addressed the media about the movie My Stand-In while on stage. Both families watched the film during its premiere, delighted that Joe chose to persevere when faced with a difficult decision and revisit his history. After a fruitful evening, they head back home and share ramen. Does Joe want to stay with Ming now that their contract is ended? However, Joe wants to start anew, and Ming concurs because he's holding the correct person this time. After exchanging numerous kisses, Ming says he'd like to face Joe. And we end with a sneeze that shakes the table. Closing described. How does the former Joe become the present Joe in his body? 2 years after Joe's stunt-related cliff fall, he somehow finds himself in the comatose body of another Joe who also suffered an accident that same day. What became of Joe's original physique? Following his accident, Joe's body is missing. When the body is found in the mountains and recognized after more than 2 years, Ming orders its cremation.